The paper palace. Elle lived in a big old house by the sea in Cape Cod. The house had been in her family for many years. It was called the Paper Palace. The house was special. It was full of stories and memories. Elle loved it deeply. She had spent many summers there as a child, running through the big rooms and playing by the ocean. She loved the feeling of sand on her toes and the salty air. To Elle, the house felt like home. It was the place where she had grown up, where she had felt safe and happy. But now, as an adult, things were different. Sometimes she couldn't help but feel that something was missing. It was a strange feeling, something she couldn't explain. The house was more than just a building, it was a part of Elle's heart. The walls had seen so many important moments in her life. The creaky floors, the big windows, and the view of the ocean from every room. These things had always made her feel peaceful. The house felt warm and familiar, a place where she could relax. But recently, when Elle walked through the door, she didn't feel the same calmness she used to feel. There was a sadness in her heart, a feeling that something was missing. She didn't know what it was, but she couldn't ignore it anymore. Every day, the emptiness inside her grew. She felt lonely, even though her family was with her. Elle was married to Peter. They had built a life together. They had a beautiful home, children, and a family. From the outside, it seemed perfect. Everyone would say, they have everything. But Elle didn't feel the same way. Even though she loved Peter, something inside her felt empty. She felt like there was a part of her heart that was still missing. There was another person who had once been very important to her. His name was John. John wasn't just a friend to Elle. They had known each other since they were children. They had grown up together, shared many good times, and learned many things. They had always been close. But as they got older, their friendship had turned into something more, something deeper. It was love. But it was a love that they couldn't share. It was a secret love. Elle never told Peter about John. She didn't want to hurt him. They couldn't be together. So Elle kept her love for John hidden in her heart. It was a part of her life that no one knew about. It was a secret she couldn't forget. There were many times when Elle would sit alone in the paper palace and think about John. She would remember his smile, the way his eyes sparkled when he was happy. She remembered how he always understood her better than anyone else. Even though years had passed, Elle still felt a deep connection to him. It was a love that never went away. But she also had her family, her life with Peter and their children. Elle loved Peter, and she didn't want to hurt him, but her thoughts were always with John. Sometimes, when she was alone, she would close her eyes and imagine what life might have been like if she had chosen John instead of Peter. But those thoughts always brought her pain. One evening, as the sun began to set, Elle and Peter sat on the porch of the paper palace. The sky was turning orange, and the sound of the ocean waves crashing on the shore was calming. It was a peaceful evening, but Elle didn't feel peaceful inside. She felt something heavy in her chest. There were words she needed to say, but she didn't know how to say them. Her heart was full of confusion, and she didn't know what to do. "Peter, can we talk?" Elle asked, her voice soft but serious. Peter looked at her with concern. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Elle didn't know where to start. She looked at the ocean, thinking carefully. The wind gently blew her hair, and she closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the ocean's power, the waves pushing and pulling, just like the feelings inside her heart. She wished she could find a way to feel peaceful again. The ocean always made her feel better, but not now. Now it only reminded her of the emptiness she felt. "I've been thinking," Elle said, her voice full of sadness. "I feel lost. Something is wrong, but I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm missing something." Peter looked at her with confusion. "But we have everything. We have the house, the kids, a family. How could you feel like something is missing?" Elle shook her head slowly. "It's not about the house or the kids, Peter. It's about me. I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want. I don't know if this is the life I am supposed to be living." Peter was silent for a moment, his brow furrowing as he tried to understand. "But we have each other. Isn't that enough? Isn't that all that matters?" Elle felt a tear come to her eye, but she quickly wiped it away. "I don't know, Peter. I don't know what is enough anymore. Peter reached for her hand, but Elle pulled back slightly, feeling the distance between them grow. I'm sorry, Peter, she whispered, her voice breaking. That night, Elle couldn't sleep. Her thoughts raced through her mind. She thought about John. She thought about the love they had shared, the deep connection that still lived in her heart. She couldn't stop thinking about him. But at the same time, she loved Peter. She had a family. She didn't want to hurt them. Elle tossed and turned, feeling lost in her own emotions. She had to make a decision. What was more important? Her past with John or her present with Peter? Every time she thought of John, she felt the love she had for him, but she also felt the guilt of her life with Peter. The next morning, Elle decided to take a walk by the sea. She needed time to think. The sound of the waves helped clear her mind. She walked along the beach, breathing in the salty air. It always made her feel better. The cool wind touched her face, and for a moment she felt free. As she walked, she saw someone in the distance. It was John. John, Elle called out, her voice soft but full of surprise. John turned and smiled when he saw her. Elle, he said warmly, I heard you were back. I thought I would come and see you. Elle's heart skipped a beat. Seeing John again made her feel both happy and nervous. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice shaking slightly. John smiled. I knew you'd be here. The beach is our place, isn't it? The place where we always came when we wanted to be together. Elle felt her heart pull her toward John. She remembered all the good times they had shared here, laughing, talking, and dreaming together. It felt like no time had passed at all. Logically, but now things were different. She had a family. She had Peter. She couldn't ignore her life with him. I don't know if I'm ready for this, John, Elle said quietly. I have a family now. I have children, and I don't want to hurt anyone. John's expression softened. I understand, Elle. But you know I'll always be here for you, no matter what happens. You've always been in my heart. Elle felt a deep sadness. She loved John, but she didn't want to hurt Peter. She didn't know what to do. I don't know what to choose. I don't want to hurt anyone. John gently took her hand. Ella, you can't live your life for other people. You have to make the choice that is right for you. You deserve to be happy. Elle pulled her hand back, her heart heavy. I don't know if I can choose, John. I don't know if I can hurt Peter like this. John smiled gently. You'll figure it out, Elle. You always do. Later that evening, Elle sat down with Peter. She couldn't keep the secret inside anymore. Peter, I need to talk to you, she began, her voice trembling. Peter looked at her with confusion. What's wrong? Why do you seem so sad? Elle took a deep breath. I've been thinking about John. I can't stop thinking about him. I've been holding on to this secret for so long, and now I don't know what to do. I feel torn. Peter's face changed. He looked hurt. John, why now, Ella? Why are you telling me this? I never wanted to hurt you, Elle said, tears filling her eyes. But I can't hide it anymore. I need to figure out what I want. Peter stood up, shaking his head. How could you keep this from me for all these years? I don't know who you are anymore. Elle felt the distance between them growing. She didn't know what to say. The pain in her chest was heavy, but she knew she had to make a decision. The room felt colder, and Elle felt alone even though Peter was right beside her. For the next few days, Elle spent time alone, walking through the paper palace, thinking. The house, once a place of comfort, now felt lonely. The walls that had always been so warm seemed cold and distant. Elle didn't want to hurt anyone, but she had to make a choice. Her heart was torn between her past and her present. Elle went back to the beach, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on her. She stood by the water, watching the waves crash against the rocks. I've made my decision, she whispered to the ocean. I'm going to stay with Peter. We have a family, and I can't leave them behind. John appeared beside her. What will you do now? He asked softly. I'm going to stay with Peter, Elle said, her voice sad but strong. We have children, and I can't turn my back on that. I have to live this life now. John smiled sadly. I understand, Ella. But you know I'll always be here for you. I'll never forget you. Elle smiled through her tears. I'll never forget you, John. You will always be in my heart. Elle went back to Peter. The pain in her heart was heavy, but she knew it was the right choice. She loved Peter, and they had a family. Life wasn't perfect, but sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was all you could ask for. Elle stood by the ocean one last time, the waves calm now. She had made her choice. It was time to move forward. Thank you.